It's episode 642 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. On today's show, I'm talking about another insane one-run loss. When do we start plumbing Woody? What do we blame? And 3 reasons the Rangers should trade Martin Perez. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Wednesday, July 27th. Your Rangers are 43-53 after another mind-boggling, very upsetting, you guessed it, one-run loss to the Seattle Mariners in Seattle last night. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. You can hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and the best way you can help grow the show is to comment anything below. Now, let's get into this game because I turned into the Joker very briefly last night. I had a very lovely evening, had some dinner with some old friends who live in Tunisia. I had a game night with some old friends, and I got home just in time to watch this Rangers game and lose my freaking mind. Just absolutely soiled what was a lovely evening, and I'm sure did the same to many of you. Rangers lost 5-4 to the Seattle Mariners. They have a chance in the afternoon game today to not get swept in this series, but, I have a feeling it's going to be another one-run loss in which the Rangers probably should have won, and just magic conspires against them to lose this game. But overall, it was a pretty solid game for the Rangers until they pooped it away at the very end. Besides that, it was really nice. Dane Dunning came back. He was very solid in his first start back. 5 strikeouts, 5 innings. Did have 3 walks and allowed the home run in this one, but only allowed 2 runs. Was able to work around those base runners. Was fairly solid in this one. Did only throw 85 pitches, but in his first start back, only allowing 2 runs in those 5 innings. Really, really solid work. Matt Moore also allowed a home run in this one. His first home run of the season. Yeah. You heard me right. Matt Moore has not allowed a home run this season until July 26th. That is an impressive record. We knew it wasn't going to stand forever, but man, he has been such a revelation in this bullpen. I am so happy to be so wrong about him. Just really happy. I was so annoyed and actually angry that the Rangers signed him, even though it was to just a minor league deal. He didn't start the season at the major league level, but we had seen him the last couple of years. He had all the talk of, he's got a new curveball. He's going to be a different guy. Well, he freaking has been. He went 2 innings in this one, gave the Rangers bullpen some length, and yeah, there was only one pitcher in this one that did not give up a run, and that was Matt Bush in his 1 inning of work. But the decision to put Brett Martin in there after his very last outing, being giving up back-to-back home runs to the Oakland A's, is certainly a decision that I have an issue with. But Matt Moore on the season, I just really want to talk about how great he has been, because he has been the second best reliever in the Rangers pen. I put Brock Burke above him because Brock Burke doesn't have quite the walk struggles that he has, but both these guys have been massive for this Rangers pen that has had a lot of ups and downs, more downs than ups. 34 games for Matt Moore on the season, 46 2/3 innings, and he has got 52 strikeouts in that time and a 1.74 ERA and just the 1 home run given up. Also only has 1 save on the season. I get wanting to use your high leverage guys in higher leverage situations, and not wanting to use everybody in the closer role. And both those guys have thrived in not the closer's role, but I don't know. It might be about time to put either Jonathan Hernandez or Jose Leclerc back into that role, because Leclerc has looked really good lately. Hernandez hasn't given up a run just yet. He hasn't looked quite as steady. I mean, Leclerc has also had his fair share of blow-up outings, and it has been 2 years since he's pitched in the big leagues before this season, before all the rehab. That both these guys took a lot longer rehab than we thought they would. But it looks like they are ready, finally, in this pen. But, offensively, it was a solid day for the Rangers. It was so frustrating because the Rangers even got lucky. The Rangers even got lucky to get their game-tying hit in the 8th inning. In case you didn't see it, Adolis Garcia hit a squibber down the foul territory the first base line. It was foul. It bounced in foul territory before it hits first base, and it had so much spin on it that it spun back fair and scored a pair of runs. It got all the way into the right field corner. I'm a little surprised he didn't get to third base. If he thought it was fair, then he would have gotten to third base with a triple. But like everybody else, saw it hit in foul territory, thought, okay, that's a foul ball, and then sees it bounce back, and the umpire at first base point fair, and so he gets on his horse and gets all the way to second. He had a pair of doubles in this one, 19 doubles for him on the season, the only extra base hits in this game. But Leody Taveras, again, comes up big, started that rally in the ninth inning with a 2-strike hit. The guy has been just on fire. He reached base 3 times in this one. Granted, it was a little bit fluky. I want to give crap to the Seattle Mariners SB Nation page, who were saying, "Oh, it was so fluky, like he didn't deserve it," or whatever. Shut up, Mariners. Things are going too well for you. You're criticizing a guy who absolutely needs every single bounce that he has gotten, boosts his confidence, gets him that much higher, and he is absolutely thriving right now. Leody Taveras so far has a 921 OPS and a 346 batting average on the season. Also had a walk in this one. Love me some Leody Taveras walks. His walk rate has not been quite as high as I wanted it to be. Coming up, he was a guy who I thought would hit his ceiling was a guy who hits 300 on base of like 350 or something, had a really, really high walk rate, is walking a little bit less, but also striking out a little bit less, hitting for more power than I thought he would at this point. Still only has 3 home runs, but has 11 doubles in 36 games. That's part of why he has the slugging percentage of .533 and does have an on base of .388 so far. Been very, very valuable in his 36 games at the big league level this season. But the Rangers also got some bad luck in the ninth inning, and I think a bad initial call and bad review. Ezekiel Duran came up clutch, drove in the go-ahead run, pinch hitting for his second at-bat pinch hitting for Josh Smith and playing third base in this one. Josh Smith did have a hit. Having him lower in the lineup, having both those guys low in the lineup, I think does a lot of good things for stretching out the Rangers lineup. But Ezekiel Duran drove in the go-ahead run and had a double. He had a double, but he fell off of third base. But he was still, in the replay, you could see that he kept his hand and one of his feet on the base the entire time, but the camera angle was being blocked by the second baseman, and it kind of looked like the second baseman was pushing him off the bag. I mean, at what point do you review that? I mean, Adrian Beltre did it a couple times where he was just jokingly would pick up the hand of the base runner and be like, "Look, I got him," but he knew that's not actually how you get somebody out. But in these stupid reviews where it's like, oh, if you even had an atom of space in between your hand or whatever and the base for a nanosecond, then boom, you're done, you're out. I feel like it's over legislating everything. It's like, I get it that technically it's correct, but it's like the letter of the law is, by the letter of the law, it's correct. But by the spirit of the law, you're kind of being a dick. And it's not fun. Nobody enjoys that. Like, oh yeah, I got him off for a split second. Except for that one time in Chicago when Ezekiel Duran did he didn't push him off the bag. He did just hold the tag. A very, very good tag. He had to grab a difficult throw in extra innings in Chicago against the White Sox where he did this exact same thing. So maybe this is karma coming and catching up to him, even though I really do think that he should have been safe in this one and would have given the Rangers, well, if maybe Soloria struck out like he did right after that, at least Marcus Semien would have been up and had a chance with a runner in scoring position to give the Rangers a 2-run lead, as opposed to a 1-run lead. We know how bad they are in 1-run games. Speaking of that, coming up, I'm going to get into why the Rangers are so bad in 1-run games, what factors should be considered, and when we start blaming Chris Woodward. Also, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why the Rangers should trade Martin Perez. But first, this episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Whether you're ready to pop the question or if you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping with BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has these simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then handcraft her perfect engagement ring. Each ring is one of a kind. Looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every single budget. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, Every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that will not give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into one-run games, why the Rangers are so bad. In case you didn't know, the Rangers are on pace for a historically terrible season in one-run games. Historically terrible. Like, mind-boggling. They are 5-23 at this point in one-run games. I have never seen a team that has been worse in one-run games. It's absolutely astounding and frustrating, and just the worst part of the season is how bad this team is doing in one-run games, because if you take out those one-run games, you see what their Pythagorean record is, which is, what they assume your record would be with the amount of runs scored and the runs given up in the season. The Rangers have outscored opponents on the season by 5 runs. They have scored 437 runs to this point. They have allowed 432 runs. So their Pythagorean record is 49-47. But right now, the Rangers are not 49-47. They are 43-53. There's a 4-game difference. That's pretty darn big. And the Rangers, they had some good luck in 2015. Like, they had some good one-run luck in 2015, which is the reason why they won that division and why they were able to steal it away from the Astros, which, is a delightful memory I will cherish for all time. Everyone's saying, oh, this is the Astros year, this is the Astros year. And then, they had the exact same core as when they allegedly won a World Series. And the Rangers beat them out down the stretch. They had probably the best trade deadline they've ever had in getting Cole Hamels and Sam Dyson, and also Mike Napoli basically for free. And that's kind of what did that to him. But I'm looking back at this team in one-run games in 2015. They weren't that great. It wasn't like the exact inverse of this. They were 27-22, like a 55% win percentage. That's not anything outrageous. That's not what would be due for this level of karma. Like, I think this is a little bit rude of the karma people. One factor I do think we need to consider is that maybe there's some ancient mystical being that the Rangers pissed off. Maybe there's some witch that someone insulted or heckled, or just wasn't nice enough to. Maybe there was some, I don't know, magical genie that they didn't read the fine print on their wishes, and this is coming back to bite them. I literally have no idea at this point. I mean, part of the factor is the bullpen. The bullpen has been not terrible. They've been mostly about fine. Matt Moore has been really darn good. Brock Burke has been really darn good. John King had a stretch where he was really darn good. I mean, these guys in general have been mostly pretty darn good. Dennis Santana's had a couple blow-up outings. Matt Bush has been a little subject to the home run, 5 in just under 35 innings. But, like, these guys, you look at the ERA plus, Joe Barlow, ERA plus 122. Matt Moore, 229. Dennis Santana, 94. Matt Bush, 128. Brett Martin, 103. Brock Burke, 313. Like, this is not a bad bullpen. It's a fine bullpen. The only issue you have is when you start to look at their strikeouts per 9. That's where I would like this bullpen to be better. Of the guys who are averaging at least a strikeout per inning that are actually in the bullpen right now, you have Matt Moore, 10 Ks per 9, Matt Bush at 10.9 Ks per 9, and Brock Burke at 9.4 Ks per 9. That is the biggest issue I have with Joe Barlow. He is not having swing and miss stuff. That is why I don't think long-term he's a closer. His FIP is 4.31, even though his ERA is 3.26. He's allowing 1.2 home runs per 9, walking 2.4 batters per 9, and striking out just 6.8 per 9, which is the same as Dennis Santana, who has got that extreme ground ball stuff, so you kind of understand it with him. Still, even if you have the extreme ground ball stuff, you'd still like to see a little bit more swing and miss from those guys. But that's what the benefit of adding a Jose Leclerc, adding a Jonathan Hernandez, and, maybe if Nick Snyder can figure it out, a guy like that. But this bullpen, it just does not have swing and miss stuff. And in these runners on base opportunities, which is a miracle that Dennis Santana was able to do as well as he did with runners, inherited runners, and things like that. I mean, it kind of caught up to him in the end. But you really need to have some swing and miss stuff. That's where you really, really need it. The FIP is a great indicator for bullpen arms. You don't want them giving up home runs. You don't want them walking a lot of guys, and you do want them striking out. I don't think it's necessarily. I think it's overblown its importance, at least, in when it comes to starting pitchers. I think you can be effective while being a primarily ground ball, living with some base runners. As we've seen with Martin Perez, I mean, he's not striking out a crap ton of guys, 7.7 per 9, but he's also limiting the home run pretty well. But still, I think that gets overblown. But then we can look at, I mean, there's not a whole lot of options of like guys who can come up and, play more of a role in that. I mean, maybe eventually you shove Spencer Howard into that role. He's got a lot of strikeout stuff. Josh Spores, for all of his issues, he does have an ERA around 8 in 11 games this year, but he does have 12.7 Ks per 9. Same with Jesus Tinoco, 11.1 Ks per 9, but an ERA of 4.76. So, I mean, I don't know. You just kind of need guys who strike guys out more. And for all the frustrations with the pitchers at the upper levels, it's mostly been starting pitching. But Round Rock, there's been some frustration with those guys as well. I mean, DeMarcus Evans has got nearly 14 Ks per 9 at AAA this season, but he's got an ERA north of 7. Taylor Hearn, in only 2 games, I think putting him back in the pen, which I think is the likely option for what's going to happen. He has an ERA, or a Ks per 9 of 14. Colby Howard's strikeout stuff, again, up there. Josh Spores, Tyson Miller, Spencer Howard, Daniel Robert, Yuri Rodriguez, all those guys. I think Yuri might be the option because he's got strikeout stuff. His ERA is 4.38, who has been relegated to a bullpen role, but I think he might be the next guy that comes up with that swing and miss stuff that makes a difference in this bullpen. I was hoping that Chase Lee would be up by now, and after seeing him absolutely annihilate everybody at AA this season and get called up a little bit later than I thought he would. I thought, okay, well, this guy is just about ready for the big leagues. And what do you know? He gets absolutely lit up in most of his appearances in AAA so far. He's got 11 appearances, 10 innings, a 10.80 ERA. Like, it's not just the starters that are struggling at AAA, the starting pitching prospects. It's pretty much everybody. Coming up, we're going to look a little bit at when this is Chris Woodward's fault and 3 reasons why the Rangers should consider trading Martin Perez. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every single league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have got you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action happening today. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Now, let's take a look at when this is time to blame Chris Woodward. There are a couple of decisions last night that I really thought, okay, this is really questionable. And I've tried to stay away from the fire Chris Woody talk. Like, this is not a team that should be winning a whole lot. Look at where they are this year compared to where they were last year. They still have 2 major questions in their starting rotation. Like, this is not a team that was expected to win 95 games by anyone rational. I mean, they talked a big game of, we want to compete, we want to be in the playoffs this year. Yeah, I mean, you like to be in the playoffs every single year, but just from a team standpoint, they didn't quite have the talent to do so. I mean, the lineup is, well, when it's on, it's an above-average lineup. At the very least, average, which is a huge step forward from last year where they had absolutely unwatchable offense and a pretty darn bad bullpen and a pretty darn bad starting rotation. Like, this year, there is at least some hope. I mean, Dane Dunning has proved to be a fine number 3, 4, well, mostly 4. But, if he's your number 3, then, like, you're not a terrible, terrible team. You've got Martin Perez and John Gray at the top who are doing well. The bullpen is serviceable, but, like, this team is shooting for 500. If they hit 500, that is great. If not, I mean, you lost 102 games last year. You lose 92 this year. That is a 10-game improvement. That's pretty big. If you win 15 more games, which I think is about the barometer that I'm hoping for this year, which is still a team with a losing record. Like, that's still where they are. And I don't know when you start to blame Woody, but the decision to put in Brett Martin, that's a horrible decision. That's just a really, really bad decision. I don't know. I would have put in probably Jose Leclerc over Brett Martin. Like, not that I think Brett Martin's bad. I kind of get the instinct to, give him a little bit more confidence there and, bring him back after that bad game, but not in that outing. Not in that outing. That's just not the place that you do it. I mean, you look later on at the bullpen, there's not exactly a crap ton of options. It pretty much was, I think it was a call between him and Jonathan Hernandez, and I would have gone with Jonathan Hernandez. I know he took forever to, get healthy on his rehab stint, and maybe there was a limit of he pitched, 2 days ago, trying to give him 2 days off, at least for the first, couple of weeks that he's pitching in the big leagues. But right now he has not allowed a single earned run. He has 3 innings in his 3 starts, and has allowed 4 base runners in that point. But, I don't know. It just feels like the wrong decision. If there was literally no other option besides Brett Martin at that point, fine. I get it. You did just use Brock Burke for, an inning and a third the day before. I still probably would have gone Brock Burke on those 2 days in a row, because unless that was 3 days in a row and my math is off and I don't remember him pitching. Actually, no, he definitely did not pitch in that Sunday game. So, I don't know. I really hate that decision, and I think that was extremely questionable. Some of the decisions, like pinch hitting Charlie Culberson over the weekend against the A's in that spot where he grounded into a double play, I think that was a bad decision. Even having Charlie Culberson on the roster at this point, his whole role was that he was the third guy to play shortstop. If something happened, God forbid, to Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, that's what he was here for. Now you have 4 guys on the roster that can play shortstop. You have Semien, you have Seager, you have Josh Smith, you have Charlie Culberson. You also have Zico Duran. You do not need Charlie Culberson for this utility role. You already have Smith for that. You already have Duran for that. And both those guys are producing at a much, much higher level, both defensively and offensively, than Charlie Culberson. And also, for some reason, Nick Solak is here again and playing more than Elliot Hernandez, who has done much better than him on the season. There's a lot of these questions that I think that's when we start looking at Chris Woodward. I don't think this year is the time to fire, unless they go on some crazy losing streak like the Angels, where it's just all right, there's got to be some scapegoat here, and the manager is the obvious choice. But again, I'm starting to turn on Chris Woodward. I've been in favor of him during these rebuild years, but some of these decisions have been pretty darn questionable, and I'm starting to turn into maybe Chris Woodward isn't here when this team is actually in the playoffs. But let's look at 3 reasons to trade Martin Perez. I am still staunchly on the don't trade him route, but if you're going to, these are the 3 reasons why you should do it. Number 1, if you think what he's doing right now is an anomaly, if you don't think he can repeat this, if you think this is the height of his value, he's not going to have a sub-3 ERA ever again, he's not going to ever be able to pitch this effectively ever again, then by all means, you trade him. You say, thank you for this fun half season. Congratulations on your All-Star appearance. Loved having you back here. We're going to see what we can get for you, because he might be the best pitcher on the market at this point. Luis Castillo, I mean, his value is not going to be the highest because he doesn't have that extra year. He literally just get a half season with him. But in terms of who's performing on the mound, health, effectiveness, consistency, I think he is the top pitcher on this market. Castillo obviously has a higher ceiling. I think his season numbers are kind of similar, but he hasn't pitched nearly as much as Martin Perez. I think Castillo has 12 starts under his belt, and Martin Perez has 19 in 118 innings under his belt. He has been very, very effective and very, very consistent. And I think any team looking for the best pitcher out there that is very obviously, he's not even very obviously on the trade market, but if he is, and Pablo Lopez or Sandy Alcantara aren't on the market, then I think this is the best starting pitcher on the market. Number 2, if he gives you an indication, if you talk to him, you say, hey, we're considering trading you, and we do love having you here, and we want you back next year. We want to sign you to a long-term contract in the offseason, but we would like to trade you, go have a little vacation on some contending team, bring us some prospects back, and then re-sign with us and stay with us for the long term next year. And if he says, okay, I get the strategy. Let's do it. I won't hold a grudge. It's not personal. And then I will happily come back next year and sign a 2-3 year deal as a free agent. Then boom, you go ahead and do that and you don't feel bad about it. That is an unlikely scenario, I think. I mean, he said they haven't talked about a extension yet with Chris Woodward or with anybody in the front office, and that's pretty typical of this staff to like not talk about contract extensions during the season. It's just not what this front office has historically done. So that's not a red flag of like, oh, the Rangers don't want him to stay here long term. That's not anything like that. But I think it's hard to not take that personally. Even if you do have the conversation with him and he kind of gives you the thumbs up, it's still like this is where he wants to be. Even in the midst of them having this frustrating season, he wants to be here, and he wants to fight through it with this team because he really, really likes being here. At number 3, this hopefully will be the last trade deadline. The Rangers are sellers. They should be sellers. They technically could be buyers if they wanted to for a longer-term option, but I really don't think they will be. So this is the last time that you'll have a chance to flip one of your top-end guys for prospects. It's not going to hurt your long-term status unless this prevents you from bringing him back on a re-signing or contract extension or whatever. This is a 1-year deal, so you're not hurting your long-term chances at competing. And you think, all right, this is the last chance we got. We've got to flip what guys we've got in him and probably Matt Moore. I really do think Matt Moore might be on the move, even if Martin Perez isn't. But if you think that's very, very important for you to do that, then I get it, and that's why you should trade Martin Perez. So I don't think any of those reasons are good enough. I don't think they should do it. Plus, this team is going to crater without one of the 2 starting pitchers who the Rangers can actually win a game when they're starting. Not through Dane Dunning's fault. Dane Dunning is just cursed. By the way, in case you didn't remember, Dane Dunning still does not have a winning decision on the road in his entire Rangers career. He only has one in his entire Major League Baseball career that came with the White Sox. But this guy is just bad luck Charlie on the road. And I really hope that he can get a winning decision on the road at some point this year. I mean, if you go on two full seasons plus a pandemic-shortened season, then, like, it's going to be, I guess it's just going to be 2 full seasons. I forgot they didn't get here in 2020. 2021 was his first full season here. But still, it's been a rough road with him on the road. Something happens to the Rangers offense. They become mystically cursed. They get into 1-run games, and they lose those 1-run games. And at some point, there's going to allegedly be a regression to the mean. There should be. This is a historically bad record in 1-run games. Like, I recoil at the sight of when the Rangers are within 1 run, especially if it is a 1-run lead, because it means, okay, they're almost assuredly going to get this up and be a 1-run game in the other direction that turns on the head. And, just don't ever have a 1-run lead. Just only hit 2-run bombs to get the lead. That is maybe how they fix this. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked on Range. I'll be back later on this week, or maybe next week, with Lindsey Crosby, host of Locked on MLB Prospects, talk more about the Rangers draft. He absolutely loved what the Rangers did in getting Brock Porter and getting Kumar Rocker. Kumar Rocker has officially signed. The Rangers actually announced it. I thought that it was already official before, but now the whole shebang is guaranteed. They got their number 1, their number 2, their 2 first-round talents with a first and a 4th-round pick. Pretty darn impressive stuff there. We're getting more news about the other Rangers prospects signing. There are some other guys later in the draft, and maybe Lindsey will be able to tell us all about them. But the Rangers have an afternoon game to try and not get swept with John Gray on the hill. Let's see how it goes. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked on Rangers. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.